For the boys.
And hello, party people. Welcome back to another NRW video. That's right, we got another review for all our fans in internet land and beyond. I am David Estacado, and obviously, this is my buddy from Buddy. On my left-hand side, Rob, the movie guy. Are you all right, Rob? You like?
I'm good, man. It caught me a little off guard with the intro there, but it was a good one. I appreciate that. I'm doing well, man. How are you doing so far?
Can't complain. I can't wait to get into this review. It's been a long time coming. We're trying to get this out there for y'all.
Yeah.
I do apologize. It's kind of late. We're trying to have it in time, but we were working on other projects. But here it is. The first 3 episodes of The Boys, which dropped
Season 2.
2 weeks ago. Looks like.
No, 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point right now.
At this point, yeah, with the release of this video. But hey, it's here. Better late than never. You get to hear about our thoughts on the first 3 episodes, and then hopefully by end of this week or next week, you'll see our thoughts on the next 2 episodes 4 and 5. But that being said, Rob, you excited? I mean, I know you've been trying to get back into this. It's been a long time coming for this season.
I was very excited because the first season made a huge impression on me. As you know, we've talked about it previously in our other review. If you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend that you do check that out. Before we get into our thoughts for the first 3 episodes of The Boys Season 2 here, let's go ahead and roll the trailer here real quick, and then we'll go from there.
Butcher? What happened?
My wife. She's alive. Vault's holding her captive somewhere. And right now, we're in a little bit of trouble.
Are you fucking with us?
Listen, this is a fucking mess. We're the most wanted lads in the country. We got soup terrorists. And we got no superheroes.
Hi, I'm Stormfront.
Who?
I'm the new girl.
Wonderful.
Oh, God!
So what's your big plan?
We'll take them Vault.
There we go.
And I get my wife back.
We're in. Of course we're in.
We blow it up in the air.
More super terrorists will come. For all we know, these maniacs could be waiting for their chance to kill us all.
Who the fuck are you?
I'm just trying to help.
Really? How?
We are in a war, but we can fight back with an army of supermen, millions strong. Now, don't be a pussy. Laser my fucking tits.
1, 2, 3, hit it!
She's got a whole army of soups.
We gotta stop her.
We need more soup!
Shit.
All right, what do we do? We can't just kill everyone.
That's exactly what we're gonna do.
Oh, great. Cool. Totally.
1, 2, 3, hit it!
I need some power!
We just need to keep our shit together a little bit longer.
Yeah, you guys go ahead. I'm good.
All right, hands in the air. Like you just don't care. Kill.
And with that, you can see the stakes are higher. The violence is still gruesome as ever. Yeah. And shit just got real in this season. And you can tell that with just the very first episode. Like, were you hyped after the trailer? When you first
I'll be honest with you. I really didn't watch the trailer because this is actually one of the very few times where I just try to walk in with the least amount of knowledge of what to be expecting in the season. Now, Not to say that I haven't come across some stuff in there, because of course, on watching stuff on YouTube, wherever else, some sort of advertisement would come through. I simply just walked away from it because I really wouldn't walk in completely surprised of what was going to be happening. I didn't want any sort of insight of what was going on. And I'm glad I did that, because once the first episode kicked in, I was hoping for something that was not going to be just a repeat or retread of the first season. They were going to try to push it in a whole new direction, and they do. So let's start talking about this here, because there's a lot that we want to get into here that I was very excited about.
Right off the bat, the show just starts off with a funny intro of well, not really funny, but just this gruesome, violent intro of just Black Noir just doing what he does best and just going on a killing spree.
Yeah.
Eliminating the terrorists from the previous season, and taking them out with very funny results at the end. Trying to kind of show that he has a soft spot and likes teddy bears.
and you also get to see a side of him that we never really got to see in the first season, being how he's actually is able to use his powers, which I thought was an interesting twist. Now I have read the comics, but I didn't read the entirety, so I wasn't too familiar with what he can pull off, because even in the comic books, he's kind of just like a character in the background too, and I thought they utilized him pretty well in this season. So the fact that they introduced him in the first couple of minutes of the first episode, that should leave you with an impression that okay, they're going to use him for something this season here. He's going to be a very important character.
Do they?
Yeah,
and do they? Because that's just like the tip of the iceberg with this season.
Yeah.
And stuff just escalates from there. I want to go into everything here, but the first episode was just kind of a build up of what happened or what's going on since the last season. As you know, the last episode last season ended up with just ending with Homelander and Butcher
and his wife
finding Butcher's wife and what essentially seems to be Homelander's son.
Yeah.
So you don't get a little bit of that info right away, but you kind of get some backstory of what's been going on. Apparently, Vought is using Translucent's death as a way to kind of set up the superheroes to be still working in the military as a way to kind of push that propaganda, which I thought was hilarious that they used an open casket to show that Translucent was there. But you don't
the
see
lights light up and everything. Yeah.
And then you kind of get to see a little bit of story development with a couple of other characters like the Deep, Huey, and Starlight, especially in this episode.
Yeah, and I also, I'm sorry, you were going to say?
No, that was my point. You were going to say something. Go.
Well, what I was going to say too was that I like the fact that they pretty much they don't lay out the entirety of the season, what to be expecting, other than surprise turns here and there. But the fact is that they focused on they focused a lot on Huey. And then once they got to when they introduced Black Noir, they really don't get too much into Black Noir even after the events of the first couple of minutes there. He's definitely brought into the picture again, but not to that kind of not with that same impact. He was just there, like, oh, there's Black Noir. He's fine. He's recovered from the injuries that he had gotten throughout that mission there. But really, then the focus turns more on Huey there. Now, I'm not sure how you want to go about this here, because there's so much to cover. So it's, for me, I'm going to say this right off the bat. Huey is the most annoying bastard in this show so far, because of the mistakes that this guy makes. You're thinking like, dude, you're on the run. You're hiding you have to hide, and you're going out of your way to more than likely expose yourself using phones and being out in the public like this. And him being incognito is just basically him putting his hoodie over his head and then taking it right off in front of everybody. I'm like, dude, you are so fucking stupid. What are you doing? And then he's trying to reunite with Starlight, who he's developed feelings here for, which I understand. But look, the way that they use his character was not useless. It wasn't annoying to the point where he became obsolete. That action that he's taken to put himself out there like that serves a purpose for the story, and it actually propels the stories, I think. And so, credit to the writers.
It's actually in just either first or second episode, you kind of pick up on why being Huey the way he is actually kind of brings some levity to the rest of the group.
True.
For how he is, especially
right.
and you bring up a good point because that's Mother's Milk's point, and brings it up to Huey. Like, what are you doing? Are you stupid?
Yeah.
We're supposed to be hiding, and now that we're the number one wanted criminals, Butcher's freaking left us. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Which brings up to the rest of the first episode. Is pretty much the rest of the first episode is just kind of them kind of coming together, Huey and Starlight, and talking about this
this plan that they devised to leak out that VOT is a company that has created a serum to change children into superheroes, and then they're going to raise them with potentially them becoming members of the Seven. They're pretty much filtering out most of their kids that they've injected with this serum here.
So like eventually right now there's like 4 plots going on. 5. Count Butcher and his search for his wife.
Well, that's at the very end when we find out where Butcher's at, because he's not in like the first 55
because we kind of at the we don't find it till literally the last bit of this episode. Yeah. Butcher kind of coming back at Daddy's home. Fantastic, fantastic way. The second one is Huey and Starlight's kind of little espionage, trying to get that info out. The Deep's finding himself being part of a I want to say almost a Scientology-like Church of the Collective. As he's kind of slowly getting introduced into that, and his slow conversion into the Church of the Collective.
Pretty much.
And then the last one, which speaking of new characters, he was in the first season, but not as much, and he is prevalent this season.
That's that Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes, Giancarlo Esposito does a fantastic job, and just the way the story, the backstory behind VOT, and their introduction, how they came to be from their roots to where they are now, really plays well with what's going on somewhat in the comic book. Somewhat spoilers here, so you don't want to know a little bit more. VOT was originally
a pharmaceutical company,
but it was founded by a Nazi scientist who
in Germany
with Compound V. So his first experiments were in Nazi Germany, which alludes into later on in the season a little bit more, but we'll get to that. But as he's telling this story, he literally puts Homelander in his place. And that scene, just the way he just speaks to him, and just Homelander's face as he thinks he has a one-up on him, and slowly realizes, nah, I'm pretty much like held by the balls here, was fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, and we also this season here I think does a really good job in exposing the mental weakness that Homelander has. You would think that him being the most powerful superhero, especially in the Seven, that he would have some sort of mental edge over everybody. But you come to see that this guy is clearly very insecure with himself. He's very much he doesn't really have any regard for anyone else around him, because again, he's able to get away with so much that he's pretty much impervious to any sort of injury, that he's never really been challenged. But the things that he has been never learned to overcome are the mental challenges of him having to learn to connect with other people, looking for the approvals of others, because he feels that gives him and this season really, especially in the first episode, really get to see that sort of mental that mental handicap that he's been dealt with his whole life. And the one man that's in charge of the company, who he thinks he has the edge over, as you mentioned, clearly turns the tables on him and just gives this very condescending speech about what the company is really all about. And you think we need you, we don't. You're just an asset, and don't you have a premiere to go to? And I was like, wow, what a way to really. I mean that speaks volumes about Giancarlo Esposito's character. Stan, I believe is his name. Mm-hmm. That guy, man. If when they do Emmy nominations here, they really, really should consider him being nominated, because he is so good in that show.
He is. He is. And even in the opening sequence, like the opening season starts off with that meeting with Esposito and the rest of VOT, and I want to say like military contractors, and they're talking over like this draft of what they're going to do with the superheroes, and like, well, of course, me. I'm their point of contact. I don't see anybody else doing it, but I'm going to do it. I'll take over. Like, just the way that whole scene plays out, I was like, oh, wow, this is the head honcho. This is the guy behind Vought.
Yeah.
No.
And he does a really good job, I think, in explaining to Homelander that you screwed up. Now we've got to pick up the pieces. But you stay over there, and we'll call you when we need you. And Homelander clearly has a problem with that. He's like, well, then if you don't like it, and he's talking about like, well, my contract's coming up soon. How do you think your stockholders are going to be thinking about me possibly not being in the group anymore? I'm a viable asset. He's like, yeah, but you're just an asset, and we can replace you with somebody else. And then we get that wonderful introduction of a character that I was not really too familiar with in comics. I didn't because I didn't read the whole thing. But we get the introduction of Storefront, who is in the background there, in your background there, and not in mine. Yeah, mine's back there too. But holy crap, this introduction, this character here, and I understand that this is a male in the comic books, and then in the series, she's turned into a female here. What a great contrast, a whole new direction for the show, because now you're seeing a side of Homelander where he's really being challenged, but being challenged by the opposite sex, when in reality he's used to manipulating and getting his way because he's such a powerful person.
Exactly.
The person's like, fuck off, And you could see that he's really like starting to see that you're starting to see that mental breakdown. He's like, there's no way this woman can overpower me
or try to replace me.
Because she was brought in by Stan.
Yeah.
Remember? Without anyone's approval. And he was like, what about me? You have to ask for my permission. He's like, no, I don't. And that's when he realized, like, holy shit, I'm fucked right now. And that's just the first episode, guys, okay? That's just the first episode. So,
and that's just left you wanting more. And then, like, I'm glad. I know there's some controversy with the way that they're dropping these episodes, but it was a great idea to drop the first 3 episodes, kind of giving us some, wanting us more, kind of giving us a little bit more. And then they're kind of releasing everything else in an episodic way every week. I understand there's some controversy with that. It's kind of a way or a ploy to get people to kind of stay on Amazon until the episodes come out or finish out. A lot of people just pay for the Amazon, watch The Boys, cancel the subscription. Totally understand it. But man, it's kind of a genius idea getting us hooked in and wanting to come back for more. Especially with just that first episode.
So you want to get into episode 2 now, because pretty much we kind of covered a good chunk of episode 1. Is there anything else you want to add? You want to talk about?
No, that's it. Because everything goes straight into episode 2. Besides the soundtrack.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Kind of ending up. They really use Billy Joel here on the first episode and in the next episode, and it's fantastic because it kind of really shows where Huey's mindset is. Throughout this season, especially using the music and his love of Billy Joel, as he's kind of talked about in the first season, it was great. Great use of the soundtrack so far.
And yeah, I like the fact that whoever would have thought Billy Joel would be used in one of the. And look, I'll be the first to admit here, Billy Joel is my favorite singer-songwriter of all time. I love his music. I have albums, I have vinyls of his. And so when I was listening to the songs that they were playing in the music, I was like, dude, obviously, why not? This is something that I thought was a good twist and turn, because we're seeing they've done a lot of shows do a good job in using music into the episodes here, but this one really made an impact for me because this is someone that I grew up listening. I grew up enjoying their music. I still have their albums, and I don't ever recall anyone using Billy Joel music in this type of setting here, let alone for a superhero show, and a really good one at that. So for me, this is kind of like a little piece of close to home type of scenario for me. So I was very happy that they're using Billy Joel in the right setting here for the right reasons here. So,
like the first episode had so much going for it. It really did. Like there's some other side plots that I don't really want to go into because they kind of go throughout the season, explain a little bit more. Apparently the boys find out that there's people being smuggled in. There's soups being smuggled into the country via their contacts that they're hanging out with. The boys kind of try to get a plan together without Butcher and reach out to their contact regarding with Raynor regarding what's going on, and she kind of puts the pieces together, and then to a very I want to say mind-blowing, literally escalation of what's going on. They kind of like realize, yo, we can't go any further without Billy. We got to get Butcher on board, and that's where Butcher comes in. And it was just a great freaking setup for the next season, and you can feel the tension between Huey and Butcher.
You mean the next episode?
Yeah, it's the next episode. And the rest of the season, you can see that tension build up between Huey and Butcher, and just that final scene.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into episode 2. So I'm already saying season 2. Let's get into episode 2 here, because this is where things kind of, it doesn't necessarily take a different direction here, but it definitely takes a turn where I really didn't know what to be expecting, because after the introduction of the first episode here for the season, we don't really know what kind of direction it could possibly take here, because I do agree with you. I think it's great that they do take a weekly episodic release for each episode, so that way you have time to absorb what you've seen, let it settle in there in anticipation for the next episode, because they do a really good job in just kind of leaving a proper cliffhanger for the anticipation of the next episode here. But what did you think of episode 2? Because after the first episode here, I thought episode 1 was fantastic. Episode 2 for me was kind of one of those this could have gone wrong, but it didn't. And I'm glad that they actually went the direction that they did. So what's your take on that?
I think you really see in episode 2 how twisted Homelander is.
Yeah.
Like, you see how the guy can play his mind games, and he can manipulate people. And you can kind of see the cracks of that. And that's fantastic. You kind of see where, like, you know, Homelander kind of has his hands in with Becca, visiting his son. You kind of see some backstory, or like what the hell happened after last season. You kind of put the pieces together where Billy's like literally trying to figure out what the hell happened to him. And you see a flashback where he wakes up in front of a Tony Cicero's, walks in, and is like, where the hell am I? Apparently, you know, Stormfront was nice enough to leave him alive, but left him hanging somewhere in front of this restaurant. So Billy's trying to put the pieces together, trying to know where he was, where Becca is, trying to figure out where he needs to go in order to kind of figure out that he's, like, you know, somewhere in New Jersey. And it kind of builds up that relationship with Homelander kind of literally has Becca almost hostage in a way. With this relationship with her son, or their son, Ryan. So it's you really get to see in depth like how Homelander kind of plays here.
Well, the way I looked at that particular scenario there is, as we already know, that Vought is keeping Becca and her son in that particular facility, because it's basically it's a privately owned facility by Vought, and they have a home, which they have a yard to basically have the kid live a normal life. In this particular case, they figured that the mistakes they made with Homelander, they're not going to repeat it here. So we're going to have his mother in the picture now, and she's going to raise him to be a normal kid. And she refuses to have the kid know that he has powers, and they weren't really sure if he even did, because they never actually tested the boundaries of his abilities. And then Homelander comes into this point, as you mentioned, kind of keeping her hostage, but she's pretty much there for no other reasons other than Vought told her to stay there and watch her kid. And Homelander discovers her whereabouts, and you think that Vought would interfere, but they're like, no, we're just gonna let him kind of get bored with you, and then he'll hopefully go away.
Yeah.
And that obviously wasn't the case there, which leads into
you also see, Homelander knows about Maeve and his girlfriend a little bit, so you can know a little bit. You get a little bit of that in there, and it seems like the theme through this is like your past is going to come back to haunt you, kind of situation. You know, you have Becca and her son, and Homelander figuring out about her son. He's playing catch with his son, trying to form some kind of connection with him. As he tries to tell, my dad did this, my dad did that, we did this all together, we played baseball together. I'm like, no, you didn't. You're lying. And then you find out. But
he admits to them towards the end that none of this stuff ever happened. So I thought that was a nice little turn of direction for the character, because he's actually opening up his vulnerability to his son in hopes to connect with him. But clearly, his son was a little scared of him, as you can tell.
Would be too.
He goes, let's go outside and play ball. He's challenging Becca's authority to a degree, and then the kid, you could probably say out of fear, goes along with his father to the point where where Homelander is pushing his son into a position where he's telling him jump off because he's on the rooftop and wants him to test his abilities. It's like he doesn't seem to understand that putting a child in that situation where you gain their trust, or at least you think you gain their trust, and then put them in a position where they are scared, that can really turn against you. He just doesn't seem to comprehend that. He's just thinking, don't worry, you're going to be fine. Trust me. I'm your father. Boom. And then the kid ends up hating him. That shows you the mindset that he has, that he's not all there because he just never learned how to develop the skills to communicate with people, to learn how to develop, to build a relationship, learn to build that trust. It's all superficial for him. And now that
which goes in play with everything else in the story. Right. Everything's very superficial,
right.
Especially when it comes to Bot. And I love how they play with that, especially as the season goes on.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to touch upon is the fact that you kind of find out that, well, like I said last season, you figure out that there's super terrorists that are being smuggled into
or as Homeland to call them,
super villains. That eventually come to find out that one of them is Kimiko's brother, and that was such an emotional, impactful scene. You kind of figure out when they're talking to each other and them apologizing to each other, reunion with them. It butchers kind of interaction with the situation where he made a deal that he can get Becca if he can take out the terrorist. Come to find out the terrorist is one of their own's family. So you see that tension build up between Mother's Milk, Huey, and Butcher.
Yeah, the friction between the group about their take on that.
Take care of this. Yeah. Like you said earlier, Butcher's the one person who's like, damn be all, I'm going to do what it takes to, get what I want or need, whatever means necessary. You see that contrast between him and Homelander in a sense.
They're almost like the same. They're on the same level of, I wouldn't say narcissism, but the same level of like disregard of other people's safety. They're really just about looking out for themselves. Although they believe that the purpose of them looking out for why they do what they do is for a purpose, whereas Homelander is like, listen, I want people to like me because clearly he's insecure with himself, so he's willing to do whatever it takes to get people to like him, to make himself feel good. Whereas Butcher is more about, I got my wife, she was taken from me, and I want to get her back. And that darkness inside of him, where he is willing to manipulate, lie, cut corners, kill. It's if he's probably just as bad, maybe in some situations, just as, if not worse than Homelander. I don't know if he'll ever go to the extent of maybe what he did in the first season, where he's willing to let the plane crash just to make a point to make Vought look good and help with their government contracts. I don't know if he'll do that, but it wouldn't surprise us if he does, if not make him a much worse decision in that type of scenario. But this is the part of the season that I truly appreciate, because you have one protagonist or anti-hero and one clearly a villain, but who's a very conflicted villain at that, going head to head with one another in some way or shape or form. But they come from the same type of position where they think they're right, but they don't care who they hurt along the way to a degree. And I don't know if you feel the same way about that as I look at it here, because this is why I think this season's so good, because you're really getting to the psyche of all these people, all these characters, and seeing where they are at this point in time in their life, and all the previous experiences they've had in the first episode. I'm sorry, in the first season, and now having it just unravel in this season here. You're definitely getting to see a certain different side of these characters that I honestly really did not expect for that to take in the direction they're going with here. Not sure if you want to add on to that, or if you see anything different.
Oh yeah, you definitely see that, especially in this episode. You kind of see where everybody is after everything that's happened in the first season.
Yeah.
You see Frenchie trying to, slowly trying to help out Kimiko and proclaim his love to her for quite some
horny
time.
Bastard.
You have Mother's Milk.
Poor guy can't get action. Meanwhile, Huey can. As stupid as he can be, he's the one that gets the most action out of everybody. But that being said,
speaking of Huey, he brings this, like I said, some humanity to the boys.
Yeah, he does.
Especially in that scene where they're chasing down Kimiko's brother. Yeah, he was right, but he got in the way of the plan. And you see that, and Butcher takes it out on him at the end of the episode. Like, dude, you got in my way. Don't ever do it again. I'll fucking kill you. So that was kind of like, oh shit, situation. And then you see Starlight kind of coming to her own this episode too, especially regarding that she pretty much manages to get the sample of Compound V that she got that she was planning with Huey, because Huey gives her the contact. But she gets some snags in the way with A-Train coming back, giving some more attention that A-Train knows, and the possibility anybody else might know is kind of like, okay, was she caught? Does she know what's going to happen? But she really does come into her own in this episode a lot too, as well.
Yeah. So, and one other thing that I also wanted to bring up here was that we get more of the Deep. Right, I was going to get into that, the Deep. So you really get more of into his character. And honestly, I thought that being that the Deep is on his own, he's not interacting with all the other previous team members here. I was afraid that his storyline was going to be a slow point. Like, I thought it was going to be dragging, because you have all this great story going on with the main crew in the current 7 right now, and then you have the Deep just bitching and whining. He wants to get back, and he's trying to figure himself out. I was like, oh, I hope it's not going to be one of those like slow bits here. But to the writers' credits, they do a really good job in keeping your attention with this guy, and they have one of the best scenes, I think, in that episode, where they have the what's it called, the Collective Church, right?
Church of the Collective.
Church of the Collective. They give him this drink that's been spiked with something, and gives him this hallucination to try to get him to join their side. So he's having like a hallucination where he's talking to his gills, voiced by the great Patton Oswalt. And that was one of the funniest scenes in the movie, where he's singing Joe Cocker's "You're So Beautiful."
It's so weird. It's so awkward. And it was so funny, but like, it kind of shows you like he kind of was coming to terms of realizing that the reason he's such an asshole is the fact that he has insecurities. He doesn't see himself as, he doesn't love himself, or doesn't find himself attractive with the fact because of his gills. He's insecure about his gills, so he lashes out and uses women because he feels like they're going to lash out and use him. So it's kind of weird, kind of psych eval of the Deep almost, kind of understanding himself and loving himself, or sort of sense.
This season really shows you that it's not necessarily the boys, in this case the humans, that have the most personal issues. I mean, they all do. I'm not saying that they don't, but really seeing heroes, the superhumans, if you will, are the most broken out of everybody. They're all, they're vying for something. They want the attention. They want the adulation. They want some sort of comfort, but they're the most broken. They have the most. They're mentally handicapped. They can't comprehend social interaction very well. They seem to be very like alienated when it comes to interacting with the public, other than having people tell them, do this, do that. And then in the process, they hurt other people, where they have to lie about relationship. They don't want to reveal certain things about themselves, in turn hurting those that they love most, with the exception of maybe Homelander, if you will. There is a lot of problems with these superheroes, and they're not invulnerable. They're very much damaged, if not more so than the humans in this show. Whereas the humans, all they got to do is just get their place back into civilization, where they want to be free and live their lives, and they're fighting for something. Whereas the heroes are just fighting for what? Glorification, glory, their peace of mind, whatever else. It's a weird dichotomy of seeing these two type of sets of people here, and the hurdles that they have to go through to find some sort of peace. But there's always a constant thorn on their side, and they are coming from the exact same place, where there is somebody out there who's creating that divide for them, and there's an unsettling thing with the public as wondering and asking, who are these guys? Can we trust them? And our belief is that we were blessed with having these superhuman beings here, but in reality, they were just created in a lab. So what is true and what isn't true anymore? And that kind of that approach with this season here, I thought, especially in this episode, really kind of gives you a perspective like the stakes are a lot higher now, because now it involves the world, and the world is being exposed to this this lie, and I got really this episode really made a big impact for me because this is the problem. This is the part where this is the episode where I was really hoping that where the first episode left off, can this one take it up another level? And it certainly does that here for me because we get an introduction with a lot of different problems with these guys here. So I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Will, because I can, I can go on and on about the show. And this is episode 2.
That's the perfect segue just to go into the next episode, which is freaking high. It just goes up to 11 here regarding everything that's going on. In this episode, you find out that the boys are going to eventually deliver Kimiko's brother to extraction points, but things go completely awry. We'll get back to that. The main focal point of this episode is the fact that due to Huey and Starlight, they get the Compound V and they release it to the public. And thus releasing to the public that superheroes aren't born, they're made. Just really bringing a punch to Vought and almost bringing them down. Once everybody finds out, a lot of stuff ensues to try to kind of cover tracks of what's going on. You have all the superheroes kind of like trying to figure out who leaked it, who was it, and people, Vought trying to save face at this point.
And now they're looking at themselves of like, they believed in something this whole time, and all of a sudden here they are being revealed that, well, you weren't actually born this way, you were made that way. And the whole time they believed this whole lie up to that point. So it's kind of like a conflicting thing to see it on the hero side of it here, where they have to come to a realization that all this lie they've been living here, someone knew the truth and just refused to tell them. And here they are being exposed to it in a form of a whistleblower, if you will. So one of their own, actually. Dude, this season is fucking awesome. I love this. This show is so good. Like
he just keeps amping up every episode. And as this goes on, the boys are like celebrating with Huey, but Butcher's more trying to get into starting to drop off the Kimiko's brother just to get the information for Becca. That's all he has on his mind. He doesn't really, I want to get the job done, and I'll do whatever it takes to get that job done. So there's tension on the boat as they're getting to their location.
Only to be stopped by who? No other than the Deep himself.
Which they really get stopped that well. Again, I don't know what this show has against mammalian sea animals, but apparently they have a grudge with them, and it's a messy effect. Hilarious messy effect,
yeah.
But nonetheless. So eventually the rest of the 7 catch up to them, and on their chasing the boys, you're left in a very tense situation with Starlight, Huey, and the rest of the boys, where Homelander's like, yo, prove yourself. Either you whack them, you kill them, or I'll kill you both. So that adds a more tense situation to what's going on. So that, before all that, you have all these character moments for everybody. You have Kimiko and her brother. You have Frenchie trying to talk to Kenji, or Kimiko's brother. Frenchie trying to talk to Kimiko, trying to like fix things. But to disastrous results.
Yeah.
You have again Mr. Stan putting Homelander in his place again. Like, look, you're just an asset. Even if it does go down, you're replaceable. It doesn't matter. Situation. And then as everything's going on, you kind of see that A-Train isn't really 100%. There's something still going on since he had the heart attack because he overdosed on Compound V.
Yeah.
And Homelander is privy to that.
That was a nice turn of events for like that, because now we're starting to see that the tides are starting to turn on them, and a lot of these characters are now having to confront their own insecurities here. And so with what you mentioned there about the whole boat incident there, where unfortunately a whale gets meets their demise due to the Deep's unpreparedness here. I mean, seriously, man, you're making Aquaman look really bad, and this is the reason why. So but you do get to see a quick reunion of the Deep and the other 7, and he gets to meet his replacement in Stormfront here, which I thought was a very nice little interaction there, and a really funny one at that too. But you mentioned before that you have the Homelander who's confronting now Starlight and Huey, and then we get to see that Butcher comes around and attempts to save Huey and, in this particular case, Starlight's life, and with the help of Kimiko's brother, who comes
Kenji.
in and Kenji, right, thank you, who then takes out Homelander in the process, only for him to escape. This is the part where the show really takes a very nice twisted turn.
A
in
dark turn,
Stormfront,
yeah.
where you
Stormfront.
see Stormfront. What a racist little bitch, man! Seriously, when she was like yellow bass, I was like, whoa, and that's because I'm not too familiar with the character in the comics. I don't know much about the background here. I did end up doing a little more research after the fact, but before that though, I thought that basically she was possibly a good guy. What a whole misdirection that we got right there, because here she is, just I thought maybe at one point that this character that she was killing was so important that she had to take him out of the equation because there's a bigger picture behind all that. But when I come to think of it, she's just a racist, and she didn't like.
I mean, she's going through like the chasing. As she's chasing Kenji, she goes through apartment complexes. She's blowing people up, killing people left and right. Like people getting in her way. She's just murking people.
Yeah.
And it just blames it on, it was the super terrorist, but it was her the entire time. You see it, Kimiko sees it, Homelander sees it, and at the end, she takes the glory for capturing the super terrorist, and it just, you could tell at the last second of the episode, you kind of see Homelander just staring death at her as she kind of takes the glory for herself, which is fantastic. Great way to set up. And talking about the comic book, yes, it's very reminiscent to the comic book where the original Stormfront character is a Nazi superhero. He's the one who was the Nazi racist superhero that brings ends up being part of the Seven later on, which is crazy. Where they're going to go, if they're going to still go in that route, it looks like they are, especially with that a little bit of story that Stan was telling Homelander. You never know, that might be the connection for everything kind of coming together, which I hopefully see as the season goes on. That might be the case.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that being said, that was the end of episode 3. We're gonna probably spoiler alert when we post this up, because this is very spoilerific on episodes 1 to 3. If you haven't seen it already, do yourselves a favor, stop, watch it, and come back. We're now on the final thoughts. Rob, what did you think of the first 3 episodes?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. This is the reason why I was so excited for this season here. First season left a really good impression on me. This season so far has not disappointed by any means. It's got a lot of great twists and turns. The character development on this show so far has been fantastic, on point. I cannot say that I didn't. There's some things I didn't like about it. I guess I was more annoyed with Huey's direction, but once his character kept moving forward with the story, it made sense. It was a very fitting piece of the story there. But that's my overall thoughts. I loved it. I can't wait to see how this season 2 ends here. And they've already made an announcement that season 3 is coming up real soon. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I'm like,
with Jensen Ackles playing Soldier Boy, so that's going to be interesting.
I'm curious to see about that version of his character here.
So I can't wait.
What about your thoughts here on this?
I'm loving it so far. The ante has been upped. I wish there was a little bit more backstory. To have like everybody have a little bit of their time to shine, especially more with Mother's Milk and Kimiko. That's probably the only downside I have to really say. But I think as the season goes on, I think we might be getting that. That's just me with the first 3 episodes. Yeah. I think they're building up to something more, and you could clearly see that. I love the homages to the comic books. The soundtrack has been fantastic so far. That's one thing I really love about the show. The soundtrack and the use of the soundtrack. It's not just throwing music in; it's actually helping propel the story and propel the emotions, especially when it comes to Huey and some of the other darker scenes. It kind of helps propel that. There's so many iconic stuff, all the stuff that's so memeable at this point and quotable. It's ridiculous. Even becoming so meta that they have memes later on. But we'll get to that in the next two videos. But so far, I'm loving the season so far. Fantastic.
Yeah, so overall, you would give the first 3 episodes of
high cheers. I haven't finished my milk already.
Oh, you already finished your mother's milk?
I already finished my milk.
All right. Well, there we go, guys. So let us know what you guys think of the first 3 episodes here. Now, of course, as David has already mentioned, we're going to reviews for the next upcoming episodes here, and we really can't wait to get into that here. We'll do our very best to try to keep it on time in release of these episodes here. But while you're here, let us know what you guys think. Did you love the first couple of episodes here? Did you hate it? If you did hate it, please tell us why, because I'm really hard pressed to find anybody that I've come across that has seen the show that said show so met anyone like that so far. So in my mind, I'm tending to believe that it's going to be a universally loved show. So I'm curious to see anyone there who didn't like the show, and if you didn't like it, why? Yeah, let us know also what your expectations over the season here so far is. Has it met your expectations so far? And do you like this new approach that Amazon's taking here, having a weekly release rather than having it released all at once for the entire season here? Because I actually think this particular format they're taking here is actually really good for the show, because it gives you an anticipation for the next one with the way they're closing out each episode here. So I think that's a good turn of events of what they're doing here. Not the choice I would have gone with at first, but someone else is left in, and they know what they're doing. So I'm glad that they take this direction here. So, well, while you're here, make sure that you subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already. And if you are subscribed, please be sure to also share and like our videos as well too, and help us to get to our numbers at 1,000 subscribers, because we have seen the numbers have gone up just a bit here, and we're hoping that you can help us out by spreading the word that is New Release Wednesdays here, so that way we can reach our goal here of 1,000 subscribers. Also, be sure to check out our social media accounts here on Facebook and on Instagram, simply just New Release Wednesdays, and on Twitter, just at the NRW. And you can follow myself on my social media account. On Instagram is Rob_Medina0585. On Twitter, Rob Medina0585. And on Facebook, Rob the Movie Guy. And my buddy from another nutty over there, where can they follow you, sir?
You can follow me on my social media on Instagram and Twitter on David is Disaster. You can follow me on my personal Facebook page on David A. Estacado, where I talk about everything else: music, movies, comic books, and I get into it with Rob and a couple other my indie wrestling friends as well when it comes to pop culture. Like Rob said, if you like the video, please check out what the rest of the NRW crew is doing. We cover everything else: comic books, movies, trivia, music. Everything else pop culture, we cover it here on New Release Wednesdays. And if you like what we're doing, like you said, hit that like and subscribe button, and always come back for more for everything else that's NRW here and the rest of our social media.
All right, guys, until next time, stay safe out there. Be on the lookout for the new video there, and cheers.
Cheers.
E01-03